The crystalline palace stretched higher than any mountain Tae-Young had ever seen on Earth. Its walls shifted colors like oil on water, and the ceiling disappeared into darkness that felt alive. He stood in chains made of purple light, his wrists burning where the energy touched his skin. Around him, alien creatures whispered in languages that sounded like breaking glass and distant thunder. Captain, Tae-Young had been a soldier for 12 years. He had fought in 3 wars before humanity ever met another species among the stars. When the Valorians came with their massive ships and weapons that bent reality, he had commanded the defense of Proxima Station. 2,000 soldiers under his command. 48 survived the battle. He was one of them. Now, he stood before the throne of Queen Valmaria, and he understood why 47 other species had fallen before the Valorian Empire. The queen was beautiful in a way that made his mind hurt. Her body was humanoid, but covered in scales that reflected light like mirrors. 6 eyes, arranged in 2 rows across her face, studied him with an intelligence that felt predatory. When she moved, the air around her shimmered. The throne room was packed with courtiers and nobles, all watching the human prisoner with curiosity. Some looked almost human. Others were so alien that Tae-Young's eyes refused to focus on them properly. They had all come to see what the queen would do with the human commander, who had destroyed 3 of her warships before his capture. "You fought well," the queen said. Her voice came from everywhere at once, bypassing his ears and speaking directly into his mind. "Your species is young, primitive, yet you fight with a creativity that surprises us." Tae-Young said nothing. He had learned in interrogation training that silence was sometimes the best weapon. The queen descended from her throne, each step making the floor ring like a bell. She circled him slowly. "I had studied your tactics, the way you use mathematics and probability, the way you sacrifice small pieces to win larger victories. Your mind is valuable." She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could smell something like ozone and flowers. "I want you to serve me. Be my war commander. Help me conquer the remaining free systems in this sector. In return, I will make you rich. I will give you power. I will let you live when the rest of your species is enslaved." "No," Tae-Young said simply. The queen's eyes flashed. Several courtiers gasped. Apparently, no one said no to Queen Valmaria. "You refuse?" Her voice was dangerous now. "Do you understand your situation? I could have your mind stripped and uploaded into a war computer. I could torture you for years. I could send ships to Earth and burn your world to ash." "Yes," Tae-Young said. "I understand. The answer is still no." Before the queen could respond, a commotion erupted near the throne room's massive doors. Guards in armor that looked like liquid metal were dragging someone across the floor. A small figure fought against them, screaming and kicking. It was a human girl. Tae-Young's breath caught. She was young, maybe 16, with short black hair and a face covered in bruises. Her right arm hung wrong, probably broken. She wore the gray rags that marked her as a slave. But her eyes burned with fury. "This creature killed 2 of my guards," one of the soldiers reported, throwing the girl to the floor. "She was trying to escape the labor camps." The queen looked at the girl with disgust. "A slave, broken and worthless. She will be executed publicly. Her death will remind the other slaves what happens when they forget their place." The girl looked up, and her eyes met Tae-Young's. For a moment, neither of them moved. He saw terror in her face, but also something else. Recognition. Hope. She knew he was human. She thought he might help her. "Wait," Tae-Young said. The queen turned to him, her expression changing from anger to curiosity. "Yes, Commander? I know her. The lie came easily. She's from Proxima Station, one of the colonists. And..." The queen moved closer to him again. Why should this matter? Tae Young's mind raced. He didn't actually know the girl, but he knew what she represented. She was human. She was alone and afraid in a palace full of monsters. She was about to die, and no one would remember her name. Let her live, he said. The queen's laugh was like music played backward. Why? She is nothing. Less than nothing. She murdered my soldiers. She defended herself. She is property. Property does not have the right to self-defense. The queen gestured, and an executioner stepped forward, raising a blade that glowed with purple fire. I will ask you one more time, human. Will you serve me? Tae Young looked at the girl. She was shaking now, tears running down her face. She was somebody's daughter. Maybe she had been studying to be a doctor or a teacher before the Valorians came. Maybe she had friends who were dead now. Maybe she had watched her parents die when the warships burned Proxima Station. I'll serve you, Tae Young heard himself say. Willingly. No mind control. No torture. I'll give you my loyalty freely if you spare her life. The throne room went completely silent. Even the queen seemed surprised. Explain yourself, Belmaria said slowly. Why would you trade your freedom for this broken creature? She's not broken, Tae Young said. She's 16 years old. She survived a massacre. She watched everyone she loved die. And she still fought back. That's not broken. That's human. Human, the queen repeated, tasting the word. You would give yourself to me for her? A stranger? She's not a stranger. She's one of mine. One of yours? The queen's eyes narrowed. You said you knew her. I lied. I've never seen her before today. But she's human, and that makes her one of mine. We don't abandon our own. The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she looked at the girl, who was watching Tae Young with disbelief. Fascinating, Belmaria said softly. This tribal loyalty of your species. You would sacrifice yourself for someone you don't even know, simply because you share genetic markers? It's not about genetics. It's about being human. And what does that mean? Tae Young met her alien gaze. It means we protect the weak. We defend those who can't defend themselves. We don't leave anyone behind, even when it costs us everything. The queen was silent for a long time. The courtiers waited, barely breathing. The executioner held his blade steady above the girl's neck. Finally, Valmaria raised her hand. Lower your weapon. The executioner hesitated, then obeyed. You have a deal, Commander, the queen said. You will serve me faithfully. In return, this girl lives. She smiled, showing crystalline teeth. But only this girl. The other human slaves remain in the camps. Let us see how far this loyalty extends when you must choose between one life and thousands. Tae Young felt the chains on his wrists dissolve. He stumbled slightly, then caught himself. The queen gestured, and guards pulled the girl away. She looked back at Tae Young, her mouth forming the word, "Why?" He had no answer. He only knew that he had made his choice, and there was no going back. 3 weeks passed in the service of Queen Valmaria. Tae Young wore the uniform of a Valorian Lord Commander now, black armor with silver markings that showed his rank. He stood in strategy rooms with alien generals who had conquered entire worlds. He reviewed battle plans. He advised on troop movements. He did exactly what the Queen asked, and he hated every moment of it. The first mission had been to crush a rebellion on a planet called Novar Prime. The rebels were a species called the Kelphins, insect-like beings who had fought the Valorians for 2 generations. They were losing badly, but they refused to surrender. The Queen wanted them destroyed quickly. Tae Young studied their tactics for 3 days. Then he designed a strategy that would cut off their supply lines and force them to retreat into the mountains. where Valorian ships could bombard them from orbit. It was efficient. It was brutal. It worked perfectly. 5 million Kelphins died in the bombardment. Tae-young watched it happen on holographic displays, each red dot representing thousands of lives. The Queen praised his effectiveness. The other commanders congratulated him. He felt sick, but Ji-woo was alive. That was what mattered. The Queen had kept her promise. The girl had been moved from the slave camps to a small room in the palace. She was fed. She received medical care for her broken arm. She was technically free, though guards watched her constantly. Tae-young was allowed to visit her once every 3 days. The visits were short, always monitored. The first time he came to her room, she threw a plate at him. "You're helping them," Ji-woo said, her voice shaking with rage. "You're helping them kill people. I'm keeping you alive. I never asked you to do that. I never asked you to trade thousands of lives for mine." Tae-young had no answer for that. What could he say? That he had made a choice in a moment of desperation? That he would make the same choice again? "What's your name?" he asked instead. "Ji-woo. Park Ji-woo. I was 17 3 days ago. Happy birthday to me. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry. Do something." But there was nothing he could do. He had made a deal with the Queen, and she held all the power. Break the deal, and Ji-woo would die. Probably slowly. Probably painfully. And the other human slaves in the labor camps would still suffer. He left that first visit feeling hollow. The second mission came a week later. A colony world wanted to join a coalition of free systems that opposed the Valorian Empire. The Queen sent Tae-young to plan the invasion. He designed a strategy that minimized casualties on both sides. But there was no way to make it gentle. War was war. The colony surrendered after 3 days of fighting. 2,000 dead. The survivors were taken as slaves. Tae-young added their faces to the collection in his nightmares. The Queen was delighted. "You are as effective as I hoped," she told him during a private meeting in her chambers. The room was smaller than the throne room, but no less alien. The walls were covered in living vines that whispered to themselves. The air smelled like copper and rain. "I'm fulfilling our bargain," Tae-young said. "Yes, but without enthusiasm. You obey, but you do not embrace your role." The Queen circled him, her movements predatory. "You could be so much more, Commander. With your abilities and my resources, we could reshape this entire sector. That wasn't part of our deal." "No, our deal was simple. Your service for the girl's life." She paused. "Tell me, does she appreciate your sacrifice?" Tae-young said nothing. "Ah, she blames you for what you do in my name. How human." The Queen's laugh was cold. "You save her life, and she hates you for it. Is this the loyalty you spoke of?" "She has a right to her feelings." "Rights. Another human concept I find puzzling." The Queen stopped in front of him. "I could make this easier for you, Commander. I have a device. A neural crown. It connects to your brain and adjusts your emotions, your motivations. You would still have your tactical brilliance, but you would serve me without this constant guilt. Without the doubt. You would be happy to do what you already do." "No." "Why?" "You gain nothing from your suffering. The girl still hates you. The people you conquer still die. At least with the crown, you would not feel pain, because then I wouldn't be human anymore." The Queen's eyes studied him. "Humanity. You cling to it like a shield. But what has it brought you? Pain, guilt, the hatred of the one person you tried to save. Tell me, Commander, what is humanity worth?" Tae-young met her gaze. "Everything." The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she smiled. "We will see." The third visit to Ji-woo came 2 days later. Her arm was healing, and the bruises on her face had faded to yellow and green. She looked healthier, but her eyes were harder. "I talked to the other humans," she said as soon as the guards closed the door. They were still watching through cameras, but she didn't seem to care. "The ones in the labor camps. They're planning something." Tae-young's stomach dropped. "Ji-woo, no. Don't get involved. I'm already involved. We all are. They're going to try to sabotage the palace power systems. Create a distraction so some of them can escape to the starport. It won't work. The Queen has sensors everywhere. They'll be caught and killed. Maybe, but at least they're trying. At least they're not helping the enemy." Her voice was bitter. "You think I want this? You think I enjoy what I'm doing? I think you made a choice. You chose to save one person instead of fighting Mac. You chose to serve a monster instead of dying with honor." The words hit like a physical blow. "Would you rather I let you die? I'd rather you hadn't made it about me." Ji-woo's eyes filled with tears. "Don't you understand? Now every person who dies because of your strategies, I have to live with that. You made me responsible. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's true." Tae-young left that visit feeling worse than ever. She was right. He had made her responsible. He had tied his choices to her survival, and now she carried that weight. The fourth mission came 3 days later. The Queen summoned him to the throne room with unusual urgency. When he arrived, the entire court was assembled. "Commander," Valmaria said, her voice echoing through the chamber, "I have discovered something interesting. The human slaves have been planning a rebellion, a foolish attempt to damage my palace and escape." Tae-young's blood ran cold. "I know everything," the Queen continued. "I have known for days. I let them plan, let them gather their pathetic tools and weapons. Do you know why? No, because I wanted to see what you would do." She leaned forward. "The girl, Ji-woo? She has been communicating with the rebels. She has been part of their planning." The throne room spun. Tae-young forced himself to stay standing. "So here is your choice, Commander. I can arrest her now, torture her for information, execute her along with the other rebels, or—" the Queen's smile was terrible. "You can wear the neural crown. Submit yourself completely to my will. Become mine in truth, not just in name. If you do this, I will release 1,000 human slaves, including your precious Ji-woo. They will be sent to neutral territory, freed to return to human space. You promised to spare her life. That was our deal, and I will keep that promise. She will live, but I said nothing about the quality of that life. I could make her suffer in ways that would break her mind, or I could let her go free." The Queen's eyes glittered. "The choice is yours. Your freedom for hers. Your mine for 1,000 lives. What is humanity worth now, Commander?" Tae-young looked around the throne room. Every face watched him, some with curiosity, some with contempt, some with what might have been pity. He thought about Ji-woo's angry eyes. He thought about the 5 million Kelphans who had died because of his strategy. He thought about his soldiers at Proxima Station who had fought until the end. "I need time," he said. "You have until tomorrow dawn," the Queen replied. "Choose wisely, Commander. Choose what kind of human you want to be." Tae-young didn't sleep that night. The neural crown sat on a table in his quarters, a circle of silver metal with neural interface nodes that would pierce his skull and connect to his brain. The Queen had sent it to his room as a reminder, a promise, a threat. His quarters were nice by prison standards. A bed, a desk, a window that showed artificial stars. The Valorians had been generous with their new commander, but the door was locked from the outside, and guards stood in the hallway. He was a slave with better furniture. He sat at the desk and thought about choices. 1,000 lives for his freedom of thought. It was a good trade by any logical measure. One person sacrificing himself to save many. That was what soldiers did. That was what heroes did in the stories. Give yourself up so others can live. But Tae-young knew it wasn't that simple. If he wore the crown, he would still be himself in most ways. He would still think, still plan, still remember. But his loyalty would belong to the queen absolutely. He would feel joy when serving her. He would feel pride when conquering worlds in her name. The guilt that ate at him now would disappear. He would become the perfect weapon, and he would help the Valorian Empire spread across the galaxy, crushing anyone who stood in their way. Was that worth 1,000 lives? He thought about Ji Woo's words. You made me responsible. If he wore the crown, he would make those 1,000 freed slaves responsible too. Every world he conquered afterward, they would know they were freed because he gave himself up. Their freedom would be built on the suffering of millions. But if he refused, Gawu would be tortured. The 1,000 slaves would die in the labor camps. And he would still be the queen's commander, still planning her wars, still helping her empire grow. There was no good choice. There was only choosing which evil he could live with. Around midnight, someone knocked on his door. Tae-young stood, confused. No one visited him at night. Before he could respond, the door opened. Queen Valmaria stood in the doorway. She wore simpler clothes than usual, without the elaborate robes and jewelry of the throne room. She looked almost human in the dim light, except for her 6 eyes and the way her skin reflected the stars outside his window. May I enter? She asked. Do I have a choice? Tonight, yes. I am not here as your queen. I am here as someone seeking to understand. Tae-young gestured to the room. She entered, and the door closed behind her. The guards outside remained silent. You have not decided, Valmaria said, looking at the crown on the table. No. Why? It is a simple equation. 1,000 lives for one. It's not that simple. Explain. She sat on the edge of his bed, a gesture so casual it seemed alien coming from her. I want to understand. Why do you hesitate? Because it's not just about saving lives. It's about what happens after. After? Tae-young paced the room. If I wear the crown, I become yours completely. I'll help you conquer more worlds, kill more people, enslave more species. Those 1,000 humans will be freed, but millions of others will suffer because of what I help you do. They will suffer whether you wear the crown or not. You already serve me. You already plan my wars. But I hate it. I feel the weight of every death. If I wear the crown, I won't feel that anymore. I'll be happy to serve you. And that terrifies me more than anything. The queen was quiet for a moment. You would rather suffer than feel joy in your service? Yes. Why? Because the suffering reminds me I'm still human. It reminds me that what I'm doing is wrong. The moment I stop feeling that, I stop being who I am. Valmaria stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships moved between the palace and the orbital stations, their lights like slow comets. I have conquered 47 species, she said softly. I have ruled for 300 of your years. I have seen courage and cowardice, strength and weakness. But I have never understood sacrifice. Not truly. What do you mean? Every species I have conquered, they beg. They offer me their resources, their knowledge, their loyalty. But it is always transactional. They give because they hope to receive. They serve because they fear punishment. She turned to face him. You are the first who offered service not for yourself, but for another. You gave yourself up for a stranger. And now you hesitate to save 1,000 lives because you fear losing your pain. My humanity, Tae-young corrected. Not my pain, my humanity. Are they different? Yes. Humanity is knowing right from wrong, feeling guilt when you do wrong, choosing to protect others even when it hurts. If I wear that crown, I lose all of that. The Queen moved closer to him. Your species confuses me, Commander. You are weak individually. Your ships are inferior. Your weapons are primitive. Yet you fight harder than species 10 times stronger. You refuse to surrender even when defeat is certain. And now I see why. She reached out and touched his face with one long finger. You value this suffering, this guilt, this impossible burden of conscience. We value being human. And what if I told you that your humanity is the very thing that makes you weak? That you could be so much more without it? Then I would rather stay weak. Valmaria pulled her hand back. The girl, Ji-woo. She hates you for what you have done. If you refuse the crown, I will torture her. I will make her scream. And you will listen to every moment, knowing you could have prevented it. Can your humanity survive that? Tae-young felt his hands shaking. I don't know, but you will find out. The Queen walked to the door, then paused. I will tell you something, Commander. Something I have told no one else. I have ruled my empire for 3 centuries, and I am tired. Not of power, not of conquest, but of the emptiness of it all. Every species I conquer becomes the same, obedient, efficient, empty. They serve me because they must, and there is no joy in that. Then why continue? Because I do not know what else to do. Because an empire that stops conquering begins to die. She looked back at him. But you have shown me something I had not considered. That loyalty given freely is different from loyalty taken by force. That a soldier who serves by choice is worth more than 1,000 who serve because of the crown. So spare them. Spare Ji-woo and the others. Let them go without making me wear the crown. I cannot. If I show mercy without cost, I show weakness. My empire is built on fear. If I let 1,000 slaves go free, simply because you asked, every other slave would ask the same, and my empire would crumble. Then your empire deserves to crumble. The Queen smiled sadly. Perhaps, but it is my empire, and I will not let it die. She opened the door. You have until dawn, Commander. Choose wisely. Choose what kind of human you wish to remain. She left, and the door locked behind her. Tae-young stood alone in his room, with the crown on the table and dawn approaching. He thought about Ji-woo, terrified and brave. He thought about the 1,000 slaves who would die if he refused. He thought about the millions who would suffer if he accepted, and he realized something important. There was no right answer. There was no choice that would let him remain a good person. Whatever he decided, people would suffer. Whatever he decided, he would carry that weight forever. But that was what being human meant. Carrying impossible choices. Living with the consequences. Feeling the guilt and the pain and the doubt, and choosing anyway. He picked up the crown. Felt its weight in his hands. Put it back down. By the time dawn came, he had made his decision. The throne room was filled when Tae-young entered at dawn. The Queen had made this a public spectacle. Every courtier, every noble, every high-ranking officer in the palace had been summoned to watch. They wanted to see if the human would break. Tae-young walked through the crowd in his commander's uniform. His hands were steady. His face was calm. He had not slept, but his eyes were clear. Queen Valmaria sat on her throne, watching him approach. The neural crown rested on a cushion beside her, gleaming in the strange light that filtered through the crystal walls. Have you decided? She asked, her voice echoing through the chamber. Yes. And? I refuse. A murmur went through the crowd. Some sounded surprised. Others sounded disappointed. The Queen's expression did not change. You would let the girl suffer? You would let 1,000 humans die in the labor camps? For what? Your pride? Not pride, Tae-young said. Principle. Explain the difference. Pride is about me. Principle is about what's right, regardless of the cost. He stepped closer to the throne. You want to understand humans, Your Majesty? Then understand this. We don't protect people because we can save them. We protect them because it's right, even when it costs us everything, even when we fail. You call this protection? You doom them with your refusal. Maybe, but I won't become your puppet to save them. Because if I do, I'll help you enslave millions more. Those 1,000 lives aren't worth millions of others. The Queen stood, her scales catching the light and throwing rainbow patterns across the floor. You speak of right and wrong as if they are absolute. But they are not. Right and wrong are whatever serves survival, whatever builds strength. Your principles are weakness dressed in noble words. Then I choose to be weak. Even as you watch the girl you saved being torn apart, Tae-young felt his resolve waver. His hands clenched into fists. But he forced himself to breathe, to stay calm. Even then, the Queen descended from her throne, moving with predatory grace. She circled him slowly, studying him like a scientist examining an interesting specimen. You understand what will happen now. I will bring her here. I will hurt her in ways that will break her mind. And you will watch, knowing you could stop it with one word. I understand. And you still refuse? I still refuse. Valmaria stopped in front of him. Her 6 eyes searched his face. Why? Make me understand. You gave yourself to save her. You betrayed your principles by serving me. And now, when you can actually save her, you refuse? Because I was wrong the first time, Tae-young said quietly. I thought I was being noble. I thought I was protecting her. But all I did was make her a hostage. I used her as an excuse to avoid dying with honor. And every person who died because of my strategies, that's on me. Not on you. On me? So this is guilt? Self-punishment? No, this is learning. This is understanding that sometimes the right choice is the one that hurts. That leadership means accepting consequences. He met her gaze. You can torture Ji-woo. You can kill every human in your empire. But you'll never own me. Not really. Because loyalty earned through cruelty isn't loyalty. It's just slavery with extra steps. The throne room was silent. Even the courtiers had stopped whispering. You are either the bravest being I have met, the Queen said slowly, or the most foolish. Probably both. For a long moment, no one moved. Then the Queen raised her hand, and guards brought Ji-woo into the throne room. The girl looked terrified. Her eyes found Tae-young, and something like hope flickered across her face. Then she saw the crown, still sitting on its cushion, and the hope died. One last chance, Valmaria said. Look at her. She is afraid. She is alone. She trusted you to protect her. Will you watch her suffer to protect your principles? Tae-young looked at Ji-woo. Really looked at her. She was so young. Too young to be in a palace full of monsters. Too young to die screaming. I'm sorry, he said to her. I'm sorry I made this about you. I'm sorry I used your life to justify my choices. And I'm sorry for what's about to happen. Ji-woo stared at him. Tears ran down her face. But then, impossibly, she nodded. It's okay, she said, her voice barely a whisper. I understand. Do you? The Queen asked sharply. Yes. Ji-woo's voice grew stronger. He's choosing to be human. Even if it kills us both. That's worth something. Valmaria looked between them, her expression unreadable. Then she turned to Tae-young. You have passed my test. What? This was a test. To see if your principles were real, or just words. To see if you would sacrifice everything for what you believe. The queen gestured, and the guards released Ji-woo. You are free. Both of you. You and 1,000 other humans. My ships will take you to neutral territory within the week. Tae-young couldn't process what he was hearing. I don't understand. 3 weeks ago, you told me that loyalty cannot be taken, that it must be given freely. That kindness and respect create stronger bonds than fear. The queen sat back on her throne. I did not believe you. I thought you were naive, weak, but I decided to test your theory. By threatening to torture Ji-woo, by giving you impossible choices, by seeing if your principles would survive when tested. And they did. She leaned forward. You are free, Commander. You and the girl and 1,000 others. Consider it an experiment. Go back to your people. Tell them what happened here. Tell them that Queen Valmaria learned something from a human who refused to break. And then what? You'll keep conquering worlds? Keep enslaving species? Perhaps. Or perhaps I will try a different approach. Your human way of building loyalty through respect rather than fear. She smiled. If it works, we may meet again as allies. If it fails, we will meet on the battlefield, and one of us will prove the other wrong. Tae-young felt dizzy. This couldn't be real. After everything, she was just letting them go? Why? He asked. Because in 300 years, no one has ever refused me twice. No one has ever chosen principles over survival. No one has ever made me question whether my empire is built on the right foundation. The queen's eyes glittered. You showed me something I had never seen. True courage. True loyalty. The kind that cannot be manufactured or forced. And I find I want to understand it better. She gestured, and the guards led Tae-young and Ji-woo toward the doors. As they walked through the crowd of stunned courtiers, Ji-woo grabbed his hand. Did we just win? She whispered. I don't know, Tae-young admitted. I don't know what just happened. At the doors, the queen's voice stopped them one more time. Commander, one more thing. They turned back. Thank you, Valmaria said simply, for teaching me that some things are worth more than victory. Then the doors closed, and they were led away to the transport ships in the throne room. Queen Valmaria sat alone on her throne, staring at the neural crown. An empire built on fear, on forced loyalty, on conquest and cruelty. It had worked for 300 years. But the human's words echoed in her mind. Loyalty earned through cruelty isn't loyalty. It's just slavery with extra steps. She picked up the crown and turned it over in her hands. Then she stood and walked to a sealed chamber at the back of the throne room. Inside was a vault where she kept things too dangerous or too valuable to leave unguarded. She placed the neural crown inside and sealed the door. One human had stood before her and refused to break. One human had shown her that there might be another way to build an empire. One human had chosen to defend a broken girl. Instead of saving himself, it was worth investigating further, and if the experiment failed, well, she could always go back to conquest. But for now, she would try something new, She would try earning loyalty instead of taking it. The transport ship was old and smelled like metal and ozone. 1,000 humans sat in the cargo bay, most of them silent with shock. They had been slaves yesterday. Today they were being sent home. None of them quite believed it was real. Tae-young sat against the wall with Ji-woo beside him. Her broken arm was in a proper cast now, courtesy of the Valorian medical staff. She had been quiet since leaving the palace, processing everything that had happened. "I thought you were going to let me die," she said finally. "So did I. Why didn't you take the deal? 1,000 lives for your freedom. That's a good trade." Tae-young looked at the other humans in the cargo bay. Old and young, male and female, from a dozen different colonies. All of them had stories. All of them had lost people they loved. All of them had survived horrors he could barely imagine. "Because it wasn't about saving you," he said. "It was about whether I could live with who I'd become if I took that deal. And I couldn't, even if it meant saving us. Even then." He met her eyes. "I was wrong to make that first deal. I used you as an excuse to avoid making the hard choice. I told myself I was being noble, but really, I was just being a coward." "You're not a coward," Ji-woo said firmly. "You stood up to an alien queen. You refused to let her control you. That's not cowardice. Maybe, but I helped her conquer worlds. I planned strategies that killed millions, and I did it to keep you alive. That's not heroism. That's just shifting responsibility." An older woman across from them spoke up. Her name was Hana, and she had been a farmer before the Valorians came. "You're being too hard on yourself, Commander. We all heard what you did. You traded yourself for this girl. Then you refused to become their puppet. You gave us hope." Other voices joined in. They had heard the story from the guards, from other slaves, through the whisper network that existed in any prison. The human commander who had defied the queen twice, who had chosen death over slavery, who had defended a broken girl instead of taking an easy path. "You're heroes," someone said. "No," Tae-young said sharply. "We're not heroes. We're just people who made choices. Some good, some bad. Don't make us into something we're not. Then what are we?" Ji-woo asked. "Survivors. People who refused to give up. People who stayed human, even when it would have been easier to break." He looked around the cargo bay. "All of us?" The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, and the stars outside the windows stretched into lines. They were going home. To Earth, to Mars, to the scattered colonies that still flew humanity's flag. They were going to see their families again. Or at least, those who still had families. A young man named Dae-hyun approached them. He was maybe 20, with burn scars on his arms from working in the Valorian factories. "Sir, what happens when we get home? What do we tell them?" "The truth," Tae-young said. "We tell them what the Valorians are. We tell them what we survived. And we tell them that we can beat them. Can we?" Hannah asked. "They're so much stronger than us. They're stronger in ships and weapons. But we have something they don't understand. Something Queen Valmarea is just starting to figure out." He stood, addressing everyone in the cargo bay. "We have each other. We protect our own. We don't leave people behind. And we fight for what's right, even when it costs us everything. That's what makes us human. That's what makes us dangerous." "Pretty words," someone muttered. "But they still conquered us. They conquered our worlds. They didn't conquer us." "Not really." Tae-young gestured to all of them. "You're all proof of that. You survived. You resisted. You kept your humanity, even in the labor camps. That's worth more than any weapon." Ji-woo stood beside him. "He's right. I was in those camps. I saw people share their food when they were starving. I saw them protect each other. I saw them stay human when the Valorians tried to break them. That's not weakness. That's strength." The ship traveled for 3 days. During that time, Tae-young talked with the freed slaves. He learned their stories. Hana had watched her husband die protecting their farm. Dae-hyun had been a student studying engineering when the invasion came. A woman named Young Mi had been a doctor who had tried to save wounded civilians until the Valorians took her. Each story was different. Each story was the same. Loss, survival, resistance, hope. On the third day, the ship dropped out of faster than light near a neutral space station. The station was run by an independent coalition of species that stayed out of the war between humanity and the Valorians. It was safe territory. As they prepared to disembark, Ji-Woo pulled Tae-young aside. "What will you do now?" "Go back to Earth. Rejoin the military. Keep fighting. Even after everything?" "Especially after everything. Someone has to stop the Valorians. Someone has to make sure what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else." "I want to help," Ji-Woo said. "You're 17. You should go home. See your family if you still have them. Be a kid." "I'm not a kid anymore." The Valorians made sure of that. Her eyes were hard. "They took everything from me. My family, my home, my childhood. I want to make them pay." Tae-young saw himself in her. The same anger. The same need for justice. The same wounds that would never fully heal. "Then when you're ready, find me. We'll fight together." She smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen from her. Deal. The freed slaves disembarked onto the station. Representatives from Earth's government were there to meet them, along with medical staff and counselors. It would be a long time before any of them felt normal again. Some of them never would. But they were free. They were alive. They were human. Tae-young stayed on the station for 2 days, giving reports to military intelligence about the Valorian Empire. He told them everything he had learned. Ship designs, troop movements, weaknesses. But most importantly, he told them about Queen Valmaria's experiment. "She's questioning her entire approach," he explained to the admiral in charge of intelligence. "She's wondering if there's a better way to build an empire than fear and conquest. That's a crack in their foundation. We can exploit that." "How?" the admiral asked. "By being exactly what we are. By showing the species they've conquered that there's an alternative. By building alliances based on respect instead of fear. By proving that the human way works." "The human way," the admiral repeated. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple. It's just not easy." Tae-young looked out the window at the stars. "We protect the weak. We defend those who can't defend themselves. We stay human even when it costs us everything. Do that, and we'll win. Not just the war, but the peace that comes after." A week later, Tae-young arrived back on Earth. It had been 5 months since he left. It felt like a lifetime. His commanding officer, General Lee, met him at the spaceport. "Welcome home, Captain. I heard what you did. Trading yourself for a civilian. Standing up to an alien queen. Refusing to become their puppet." The general shook his hand. "That's the kind of officer we need. I also helped them conquer 2 worlds and kill millions of people," Tae-young said quietly. "Don't make me a hero, sir. I'm not one. Maybe not. But you're human. And right now, that's what matters most." Tae-young was reassigned to a new position, training officers in resistance tactics. He taught them everything he had learned about the Valorians. But more than that, he taught them about choices. About staying human. About protecting the weak even when it seemed impossible. 6 months after his return, he received a message on a secured channel. It was from Queen Valmaria. "Commander," the message began, "I am writing to inform you that your experiment is proceeding. I have freed 10,000 more slaves across my empire. I have offered peaceful alliance to 3 species instead of conquering them. 2 accepted. 1 refused and is now at war with us, which is unfortunate but expected. The results are mixed but interesting. My advisors think I am mad. My generals think I am weak. But I am learning that your human way may have merit. We shall see. Perhaps one day we will meet again, as allies or as enemies. Either way, I wanted you to know that one human changed an empire's mind. That is worth something. Tae-young read the message 3 times. Then he deleted it and went back to work. Years would pass. The war would continue. People would die. But something had changed. A seed had been planted. The idea that there was another way. That loyalty could be earned instead of taken. That protecting the weak made you strong. And it all started because one man refused to abandon a broken girl. Years later, when historians wrote about the turning point in the human-Valorian War, they would debate which battle mattered most, which strategy changed everything, which leader made the crucial decision. But the people who lived through it knew the truth. The war changed in a throne room on an alien world, when a human captain chose principles over survival. When he defended someone he didn't know, because it was right. When he showed an empress that some things are worth more than victory. That was the moment humanity stopped being just another conquered species. That was the moment they became something the galaxy had never seen before. Human. And that made all the difference.